Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is August 4th, 2025, and Lamine Yamal is currently undergoing special training. Also, Ronald Araujo confirming his future plans at FC Barcelona. And finally, Barcelona having a little bit of change of plans when it comes to Hector Fort. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mo. This is the Barca News live podcast, which is on every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, where not only we discuss Barcelona news, but we're also get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by reading your comments, answering any questions, and getting the discussion going. For those of you who will be watching when the podcast ends, I will be putting timestamps in the description and chapters in the timeline in case you do want to skip through the discussion and get straight into the news. Having said all that, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. If you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, including the new home kit and the new away kit, make sure to Gold Kits, Kit Bag, or Fanatics. And if you are looking to place any sports bets, make sure to bet us. All links are down below in the description. You click on them, you get access to some pretty cool deals and offers. Anyways, let's begin with the news. As you can see, I'm already back home. I landed today at 7 in the morning, went straight to work. Then I got off work and, of course, came to do this. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I cannot wait to go to bed. But nonetheless, we got to get through the news first because, as always, there's lots of news to cover. Starting with news regarding the Gamper Trophy match because, as you know, Barcelona just concluded their pre-season tour in Asia with today's final match against Daegu FC, where Barcelona completely thrashed the Korean team 0-5, which, by the way, I am making a video after this one, kind of like summarizing my thoughts and opinions about the preseason tour in Asia. But anyways, that's a whole nother topic. But now that Barcelona have finalized their 3 matches in Japan and South Korea, the team are currently on their way back to Spain ahead of their final preseason match, which will be against Como in the Gamper Trophy. Now, as you know by now, Barcelona had initially announced that the Gamper Trophy match was going to be played at the Spotify Camp Nou. That's not going to happen because the stadium is not ready. Instead, the Gamper Trophy match will be played at the Johan Cruyff Stadium, or Estadi Johan Cruyff, which is where the Barca Athletic and Barcelona Femini play. I've actually been to the stadium, pretty cool stadium, but what's the problem? Of course, it's a tiny, tiny stadium. It can only fit up to 6,000 people roughly. And of course, this has created a big problem as far as tickets because, I mean, the Spotify Camp Nou used to sell out and it had, 98,000 people capacity. Can you imagine a small stadium with only 6,000 people capacity? Now, the tickets are now up for sale for Sochi's only. And the problem is that this, of course, has created a huge spike in price, right? Supply and demand. There's a lot of demand to see Barcelona matches. Supply is very limited given the limited capacity of the stadium. So this has caused the tickets for the Johan Cruyff match, which is usually pretty cheap because it is a friendly match, to skyrocket, where tickets range in between 138 euros all the way up to 600, even 700 euros. And this, of course, has caused a lot of anger amongst the club Sochis and fans who wish to attend this match. Now, on to the next bit of news, because as usual, the first segment of news is comprised of multiple bits of news. We have to talk about Marc Casado because Tottenham Hotspur have become the latest club who are interested in the Barcelona midfielder. They are currently planning an offer. They want to make a big push for Casado. Of course, I say the latest club because other clubs have also tried to sign him, like Chelsea. But to be fair, they try to sign everyone. Atletico Madrid. There was even talks about Bayern Munich at the beginning of the summer. But now Tottenham Hotspur are the latest one to join the race for the Barcelona midfielder. But of course, as I told you, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Barcelona are not planning to sell Marc Casado or Fermin Lopez, of course, because there were a lot of reports about Fermin Lopez leaving to Manchester United. But we're not here to talk about Fermin. We're here to talk about Marc Casado. Club not planning to sell Marc Casado. And of course, Marc Casado is not planning to leave. He wants to stay at Barcelona. Now, as I told you before, there's only a handful of players who are considered as untouchable at Barcelona, like Lamine Yamal, Pau Cubarsí, Marc Bernal, Pedri, Gabi, these players who, no matter what the offer is, even if it's 500 million for Lamine, Barcelona will be like, nope, not even considering it. Everyone else, if Barcelona would receive a big offer, they would transmit it to the player and say, hey, look, we got this offer. Do you want to go? Yes. Okay, cool. Go. You don't want to go. That's fine with us too. So Marc Asado is one of those players where if Barcelona would get a big offer, they would transmit it to the player. But that doesn't mean that he is on the market. It doesn't mean that Barcelona are, actively looking to sell the player. And again, a player not looking to leave. And of course, Flick made it very clear to Barcelona, do not touch Marc Asado or Fermin Lopez. But again, we're only here to talk about Marc Asado. So Tottenham Hotspur, sorry, but you're going to have to continue sucking without Marc Asado. Anyways, the last bit of news of this first segment is in regards to Lamine Yamal, since we just mentioned his name, that one of the untouchables at Barcelona. But it's been revealed that Lamine Yamal has been undergoing a special training regimen in order to work on his weakness. Now, what's Lamine's weakness? Quote unquote, because you've seen how great he is. It's his right foot, right? Lamine Yamal is left-footed. He mostly operates he relies heavily on his left foot, whether it's for passing, dribbling, shooting, etc. And it's been revealed that during the preseason, Lamine Yamal has been undergoing special training sessions where he has been working for extra hours, like the training would finish, and then he would continue training for extra hours in order to work on his right foot, because Flick wants him to depend on both legs, not just the left one. So he's been doing, special exercises, whether it be shooting drills to improve his shooting with his right foot, 1v1 situation so he can dribble with his right foot and be able to cut to the outside, not just to the inside. And of course, finishing, right? Whether it be filtering passes or that final touch, that assist, etc. But Lamine Yamal has been putting in extra hours in order to improve his right foot. And I got to say that if I'm other teams, I would be pretty worried and scared, because we've seen how lethal Lamine Yamal is with his left foot. Can you imagine Lamine Yamal using both legs? Other teams, be aware. Now, by the way, we already saw, I think it was against FC Seoul, we saw Lamine Yamal dribble a player with his right foot. He ended up finishing with his left, but that was definitely something new. So it looks like it's already paying off. And again, remember, the preseason just began 2 weeks ago. So if Lamine Yamal continues to work on his right foot, man, can you imagine a Lamine Yamal that can dominate both legs? That is definitely a scary sight. Anyways, so let's do the comment section, and then we are going to talk about Ronald Araujo and Hansi Flick as well, but with more focus on Araujo, because he has talked about his future plans. Jose Fernandez says, hey, Mo, what do you think about Gerard Martin being played in the left center back position, and do you see improvement in Araujo? Gerard Martin is naturally a left back, not so much a fullback. He's more of a defensive left back, right? We saw that how he struggled a lot at the beginning of last season whenever it came to attacking, because he just wasn't used to it. He was always used to defending. And then whenever he would go up, his crosses would be sloppy, his passes would be sloppy, and he would struggle tracking back because he wasn't used to that. He wasn't used to going all the way up and then have to come all the way back down. Now, that improved a lot throughout the season. And then towards the end, we saw him providing assists. We saw him providing assists in the Champions League. We saw him providing assists against Real Madrid. I mean, his attacking improved a lot, right? But that's not the point. The point is he's always been a defensive player. And, of course, he's left-footed. So I think the left center back position fits well because he knows how to defend. He knows how to use his left foot. So I don't think it's a problem at all. I think I saw a pretty good performance today from him against Daegu FC. By the way, another assist again today. Be careful with Gerard Martin because he's starting to get pretty good at those crosses. We saw him struggle at the beginning of last season. Towards the end of last season, he was providing assists left and right. And now he's still doing it. So be careful with Gerard Martin. That guy could surprise you this upcoming season. And I forgot. He also improvement on Araujo. Here's the thing about Araujo. Araujo doesn't need to improve as far as him as a defender because he's one of the best defenders in Europe. What he needs to improve on is, of course, absorbing the tactics of Hansi Flick. I think I've seen a little bit of improvement in today's match as far as reading the plays and try to intercept plays ahead of time, which is something you need to do when you're playing a high line. You have to be able to do that. You have to be able to read the field pretty well, because otherwise, if you're just reacting to things, it might be too late because you're playing so high up. You have to be able to anticipate things and, nip it in the bud before it becomes too late, because if it becomes too late, you're effed, right? You're all the way up. Now your goalkeeper is left alone. I saw a little bit of that today, but it's too early to tell. I think it's going to be very difficult too early to tell yet if Araujo is adapting to Hansi Flick's scheme. I think as the season progresses, we'll be able to better determine whether he has adapted or not to Flick's style. Super Ice says, hey, Mo, do you see Tony today? He was amazing, pressing and everything. I hope to see him in the squad soon. Yeah, I mean, Tony has always been very promising. With Barca Athletic last season, he was great. The problem is, of course, same problem as a lot of the midfielders are having in the academy, right? Whether it be his cousin Guille, whether it be all the other midfielders that left, like Unai Hernandez. The problem is, space on the squad, right? Had Barcelona not signed Rooney Bargi, I would have been like, oh, maybe we will see him more during this season. But now with Rooney Bargi and Lamine Yamal on the right, that kind of course, limits his possibilities. But who knows? We might see him, being called up here and there, and maybe we'll see him play a few minutes here and there, because after all, the season is long. It's a lot of competition, a lot of matches. So who knows? But I do like Tony, and I really hope that he stays, because he's a very promising player. Javon says, am I the only one who's a little consider about Rafinha performance for the preseason? I think you mean concern, I'm guessing. I wouldn't be too much concerned about Rafinha's performance during the preseason, because it is the preseason. I don't think Rafinha performed that great last preseason either. I think it wasn't until what was that third match where the team finally, was it against Rayo Vallecano, where Barcelona scored 7-0. I remember the first two fixtures of La Liga last season, Barcelona won. I think it was 2-1 and 1-2, something like that, like barely by one goal. And then third match, boom, 7-0. And then from there, they just hit the ground running, right? And then from there, they just started thrashing. Thrash Real Madrid, thrash Bayern Munich, they were thrashing everybody. And we didn't really see Rafinha transform into Coutinho until that match. So I would be more concerned about the fact that he had two horrible seasons when he first arrived. That would be more concerning to me, because it's kind of like, all right, he's had two bad seasons and one good one. So what is this season going to be? Is it going to be another good one, or is he going to revert back to the old Rafinha? That would be my concern. As far as the preseason, no, I'm not too concerned, because it is the preseason after all. Some players, it's hard to get motivated when it's a preseason. There's nothing on the line. There's no trophy, nothing, hanging on the balance. Plus, it's, a weaker opponent. So you're like, do I really care about impressing against these guys? Plus the weather, it's hot, it's humid. All these factors, obviously affect. He did have a great pass to Gerard Martin that led up to Gerard Martin's assist to Lewandowski. I think that was a great play. The way Rafinha, sees Gerard Martin making the run, and the way he filters that pass through all the defenders. I think that was an amazing pass. I think it was an amazing read by Gerard Martin to see how Rafinha was completely surrounded by defenders. Nobody else was open. He makes the run, gets the pass, and that cross to Lewy. I mean, that was a masterclass of a play. Jose says, Mo, in my opinion, Gavi and Casado are ahead of Frankie with Bernal on the horizon. I think Barca's best move is to sell FDJ. It will solve our registration woes. I'm not going to lie. At this point, I cannot say confidently that Frankie would be ahead of Casado. I can't say confidently that Casado could be ahead of Frankie either. I see either one of them starting. I mean, Flick has quite the dilemma. But of course, it's a dilemma that any coach would have. Like, who doesn't want to be like, oh my God, who I start? Pedri, Frankie, Casado, Fermin, Dani Olmo, Bernal. Imagine having that problem. It's kind of like waking up and be like, all right, I got to go to work. What am I going to take today? Am I going to take the Lamborghini? Am I going to take the Ferrari? Am I going to drive the McLaren? Am I going to drive the Rolls? I mean, that's a beautiful problem to have. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Any of those guys could be a starter. But yeah. I mean, I've always been in favor of selling Frankie because his performances have been very inconsistent. Of course, last season he was great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to knock his last season performance, but before that, it was always inconsistent. He would have great matches, then bad ones, that great match and bad one. He would never keep consistent performance. And with the overbooking that we have in the midfield, someone comes with a good offer, 70, 80 million. I mean, we've already amortized him, so it would all be pure profit. Why not? But that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Flick completely counts on Frankie. He's not looking to sell him. The club is not looking to sell him. They want to renew him. He's not looking to leave. So that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. That's, of course, all theoretical. Let's do one more, and then we'll go back to the news. But Hector says, I think the blonde is really working on the boys. Yamal is cooking Grandpa Lewa, still being Lewa, and now Gavi. Hey, you know what? You might be right. You might be right because Gavi, man, prime Gavi is back. People are like, oh, what does Flick see in Gavi? He just knows how to, commit fouls. I'm like, if you think that, you don't know football because Gavi is both a builder and a destroyer. He knows how to build plays. He knows how to interrupt or destroy the opposing team's plays. And he's a complete midfielder. He can push forward, combine with his teammates. He can provide assists. He can score goals. He can also track back, defend, intercept passes, and commit fouls if he has to. He's a complete midfielder. And last season, he had come back from a year-long injury. People are like, oh, what does Flick see in Gavi? Gavi's trash. I'm like, if you think that, maybe ping pong would be a better sport to watch for you. I don't know. But, yeah, prime Gavi is back. Watch out. Anyways, let's get back to the news because we do have to talk about Ronald Araujo's statement today. Because as you know by now, Barcelona, of course, destroyed Daegu FC 0-5. And during the post-match press conference, Ronald Araujo was asked about what are his intentions. Does he want to stay at the club? Because, of course, we know Araujo was very serious about leaving during the winter transfer market. In fact, he brought an offer from Juventus to Barcelona and said, hey, look, Juventus want to sign me up. I want to leave. He even talked to Juventus' coach and everything. He was set to leave, but, of course, Deco convinced him to stay. He renewed his contract until 2031. And now there were some reports being leaked by his own entourage saying that if Araujo at the end of the preseason or beginning of next season feels like, he's not getting an important role, that he could consider leaving. So, of course, given all this, Araujo was asked a question that's been asked a lot lately, but this was his answer to the question, are you planning to stay at Barcelona? Now, this is what the Uruguayan defender said, of course, I am very happy at Barcelona. They haven't seen the best Ronald yet. And he is the one who will come in the coming years. Mentally, I'm very confident now, which I lost a bit last year with the injury. This year, I'm very motivated. I felt very good during preseason. I wanted to do well physically, but last year I struggled. I did very well, feeling very comfortable, more agile, and more confident. So, Ronald Araujo pretty much saying, yep, I want to stay. I feel motivated. Last year, mentally, physically, I wasn't 100% there. Physically, he wasn't there because, of course, he spent first half of the season injured. And then after that, it takes time to get back into rhythm from injury. And if you're not really getting the minutes, it makes it even more difficult. So physically, he wasn't there. Mentally, of course, when your body's not fully there, it makes you start doubting mentally. So he wasn't there physically or mentally. But this season, he feels like he's there both. He feels confident. His body's good. He's recovered. And he says that the best Ronald Araujo is yet to come. And, of course, he wants to stay at Barcelona to show us the best Ronald Araujo yet. So it doesn't look like Araujo is planning to leave, which I have to say, I've complained about Araujo a lot, but I've always maintained my position that I think Araujo is one of the best defenders in Europe. No doubt about it. The problem is, of course, that he hasn't been able to adapt to Hansi Flick's style of play, right? There's a difference between sucking versus not being able to adapt to a system. You can still be great and not be able to adapt to a system, right? Ibrahimovic, one of the best strikers of our generation, he couldn't fit under Pep Guardiola's system, right? Does that mean he sucked? No, it just wasn't a system for him. So I think that's the problem with Araujo, right? It's not that he's a bad center back. It's not that he's trash like people make it out to be. I think he's a great center back, very gifted and talented center back. The problem is he just doesn't fit in Flick's system. Now, he feels confident. He feels like he could do it. As you know, Barcelona do have a special plan that Araujo has been undergoing in order to learn Hansi Flick's system. So all I have to say, if he is staying, and since he is one of the best center backs in Europe, I really hope that he does end up adapting, because at the end of the day, it'd be a shame for someone as talented as Araujo, for his talents to go to waste just because he couldn't learn a system. And because he is staying, of course, I want him to do great, because as I always say, I want all Barcelona players to do great, because if they do great, the team does great. And at the end of the day, that's what I want. So, Araujo staying doesn't really bother me that much. If he's the only thing I hope is if he does stay is that he ends up learning the system and he ends up shining in it. And by the way, the reason why I don't mind it right now, I think we saw last season we have two incredible center backs, Pau Cubarsí and Iñigo Martinez. Worst case scenario for any coach is that your two starting center backs are not available, whether it's because they're injured, suspended, tired, fatigued, whatever. Worst case scenario, right? Worst case scenario in Barcelona, Cubarsí and Iñigo are not available. Who's going to replace them? Araujo and Christensen. The two center back who help us win a La Liga title under Xavi after many seasons. So that's Barcelona's worst case scenario. Like, oh my God, we're fucked. That's a pretty good worst case scenario. So that's why I'm not too bothered by it, or I'm not bothered by it. If Araujo wants to stay, that's fine. Of course, I do hope, though, he does improve and learn Hansi Flick's system, because if not, then I think winter transfer market or next summer, Barcelona should seriously consider putting him on the market, because, we can't have someone who just cannot learn the system. Now, last season, the excuse was, of course, first half of the season he was injured. The second half, he didn't get that many minutes. So how are you going to learn the system if you're not even playing? If this season is still the same, then I think Barcelona should say, okay, that's it. We're closing the door on this chapter and we got to sell you, because then there's no excuse, right? You have excuses for last season. This season, I think this should be his last shot. Now, Hansi Flick did have some statements about the preseason or today's match as well. And this is what the German coach had to say. It's very important to have these players from La Masia. In these 3 matches, we've been able to give almost all of the players 45 minutes. I'm very happy. The players have shown their mentality, and it wasn't easy due to the weather. Now, he was also asked about Marcus Rashford and Gerard Martin. And regarding Gerard Martin, he said he can play center back, and that gives us more options. He can also play at fullback. It's good to have more options because he can help us throughout the season. In regards to Rashford, Flick said he can play at number 9 or number 11. We changed it because we had to be careful with Ferran. We wanted to see how he adapted to the position. So 3 things here that Flick highlights. First, the importance of La Masia. And I've said it before a million times, and I'll say it again. We have the best academy in the world. Only La Masia can produce some of the greatest players in history, like Messi, Iniesta, Xavi, Busquets, etc., etc., etc. And when you think the Masia is done, it brings you players like Balde, like Gabi, from that generation. And then you're like, all right, that's amazing. And then boom, spits out Lamine Yamal, Pau Cubarsí, Marc Bernal. And when you think La Masia cannot even do better, there comes Dro, there comes the Fernandez cousins, there comes Jofre Torrent. I mean, this academy is just unstoppable. Just talent after talent after talent after talent for generations. And we've seen how important La Masia has been in a lot of the success of Barcelona. Only when Barcelona has depended on their La Masia has this club flourished. And when we depended on signing other players is when the club didn't do as well. And that's a historical fact. And I think we're very, very blessed that we have the best academy in the world. We should continue. Instead of spending, 60, 70 million on Nico Williams, just give some of that to La Masia. La Masia's budget, I think it's like 10 million a year for the whole academy. Just add a 15 million. You're going to get your investment 10 times over. Instead of making all these big, big signings, why not invest in our academy more? Because we do have the best academy in the world. And of course, Flick highlighting that. And then, of course, talking about Gerard Martin. How he can play as a center back, as a fullback. As you know by now, I talked about this in the previous video. Flick has decided that Gerard Martin will be Alejandro Balde's substitute this upcoming season. Of course, he was one of the best, most improved players last season. I think the guy has earned it. And of course, Rashford, Flick today using him as a number 9 because Ferran, he was having, some muscle problems, some discomfort. So as a precaution, they brought in Rashford as a 9. And as we've seen, he can play there. In fact, he scored his first goal. So all of this just only adds to what I talked about during my match review of the match against FC Seoul, which is we finally have a deep bench. We finally have a deep bench. We have Balde. Oh, he's injured before. It's like, oh, we're screwed. Now Gerard Martin can do that job. Kunde. Oh, he's not available. Eddie Garcia. He can do that job pretty well too. Like I said a few moments ago. Christensen and Inyo both not available. Oh, big deal. We have Araujo and Christensen, right? In our midfield, we have a million midfielders, all incredibly talented. Pedri, Casado, Frankie, Bernal, Fermin, Dani Olmo. I mean, the options are just amazing. Oh, Lewandowski. He's not having a good day. Throw in Rashford in there. Oh, Lamine Yamal. He needs some rest. Rooney Bargi. Oh, Rafinha needs some rest. Rashford again. Ferran as a 9. I mean, every position has 2 very capable players that can fill it. In that, I have not seen that in a very long time at Barcelona. And that only fills me with hope as far as the upcoming season because you need that. When you're playing 3-4 competitions, when you're playing a match every 2-3 days, you need to have a good enough bench that when your starters are tired, you can bring in your bench and the quality does not go down. And that was not the case for many, many years at Barcelona. Many years Barcelona, the team would not be working. You look at the bench, you're like, all right, who can come in? Oh, Braithwaite. Oh, Firpo. Oh, what's that guy's name? The Portuguese right back that we had. Semedo. And it's like, never mind. I'll just stay with my starters. It's like for the first time ever, we have, well, not ever, in a long time, we have a very good bench. Anyways, let's get back to the news, and then we are going to talk about Guille Fernandez since I just mentioned him. But let's, of course, first do the comment section. Jorge, who's now a member, says, I know it's tradition to have it, Barca, but wouldn't it be more profitable if we do that Gamper in a foreign stadium? Maybe. I mean, the Joan Gamper Trophy match is a pretty profitable endeavor anyway because it usually sells out. Would it be more profitable in another stadium? I mean, only if we would be sponsored to go there. We would get paid to go there, right? Kind of like Korea, Japan, US tours. Those are profitable because those countries want to bring more tourism, more football attention and more football tourism to their country. So they pay Barcelona a lot of money, like, hey, come play here in order to, to promote football in our nation. So it could be more profitable, but only if it would be like a tour kind of thing where a country or a promoter would come and pay us a lot of money to go play in that country. But it's going to be most likely in a exotic location, I guess. It's not going to be, France or Italy or England. But, it is tradition. Joan Gamper Trophy is played in Barcelona. So that's why we do the preseason tour. Because the tradition is for the start off the season or kick off, I guess, or end the preseason with playing the Joan Gamper Trophy at home. Dejasquel says, hey, Mo, mediocre players in EPL get sold at such high value versus talented players in La Liga are undervalued. Chelsea's bench player, Kieran Dewsbury Hall, sold for 30 million euros, same as Casado value. Why? Because it's a lot more money in the Premier. And as such, the teams are willing to pay more money. So it's kind of like they drive the price up, right? It's like, oh, hey, this guy, you want him? Okay, give me 40. And the other club's like, all right, fine. I got the money. I can pay it. No problem. So now another club is like, all right, well, if you sold that guy 40, my guy is way better than him. So I'm going to sell him for 80. And some other clubs are going to be like, okay, cool. Yeah, I got the money. Here you go. So I think it has to do a lot with just there's a lot more money in the Premier than La Liga. And, of course, all that it's thanks to, well, the clown, Javier Tebas. Landray says, I just want to give you your flowers, Mo. Your consistency insane. Trust me, it's not easy. I know it. Great job. Well, thank you, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. I try, I try my best to at least do one video a day if I can't do two, because there's so much news and it's the only way to keep up with it. Otherwise, forget about it. Forget about it. But thank you, my friend. Thank you. Jose Fernandez says, Mo, what is up with Dani Rodriguez and his shoulder recovery destined for Barca Athletic this season? So obviously he's still recovering from the injury. That's why he did not travel with the team to the preseason. They're saying he could be available for the beginning of the season. So, since he didn't get his time to shine with the team during the preseason, I'm sure Flick will keep an eye on him. And, if he sees that, he deserves a call-up, I'm sure he'll call him up. But then now we have Rashford, right? So it's like you have Rashford and Rafinha on the left. So I don't know how much minutes he'll be getting, but I'm sure if he starts impressing with Barca Athletic and Flick sees what he likes, I'm sure he'll call him up here and there. Shadow Promax says, why you lying, Mo? Araujo has no in and need to leave if he can't play. I'm lying about what? That he's good? I mean, I'm not lying that he's good. Araujo was, our best center back for the longest time until Flick came in, changed up the system. He wasn't him. You don't believe me? Just go back and watch, the last seasons before Flick. Richard from Ghana, love so much. Hope our beloved Barcelona will achieve more trophies. Amen, my friend. Amen. And with that, let's get back to the news, because we do have to talk about our next academy player, who is Guille Fernandez, that 17-year-old midfielder, one of the Fernandez cousins. His other cousin is Tony Fernandez, who scored a goal today against Daegu FC. Pretty good goal, by the way. Great play. Who I think it was it Bargi to Dani Olmo and Dani Olmo to Tony? I can't remember who passes it to Dani Olmo, but a great triangulation. But anyways, we're not here to talk about Tony. We're here to talk about Guille Fernandez. By the way, it's really cool. Their mothers are siblings and their fathers are siblings, and two brother fathers and a two brother mother sister. What the fuck am I saying? Married each other. And then Guille and Tony were, born. So they're like first cousins of both sides, right? Because their moms are sisters and their dads are brothers. And they both ended up at the Barcelona Academy, and they both worked their way up. I mean, it's pretty cool. It would be really cool to see the two of them playing on a first team. But anyways, I'm digressing. Let's talk about Guille, because as I told you last video, I can't remember if it was yesterday or the day before, Guille is going to consider all his alternatives at the end of the preseason. Now, Guille, very promising midfielder. Flick has been keeping an eye on him for a long time. And in fact, he called him up to the U.S. tour last summer. But of course, there's a big problem that the first team, of course, there's a million midfielders. So the chances of someone from the academy making it to the first team are pretty big, or pretty small, I should say. Now, Guille has been attracting a lot of interest from European clubs the last 2 seasons. So at the end of the summer, or at the end of the preseason, what he wants to do is he wants to sit down with Barcelona and be like, all right, what's the plan here? What does the future hold for me at Barca? He wants to also listen to the offers from other clubs and then sit down and compare what every club is offering him, what Barcelona offer him, and make a choice. Now, Guille's priority is to stay at Barcelona. But of course, if he sees that his chances are very, very minimal of making it to the first team, he might consider an exit. Now, the latest news comes out of Bild. Bild is a German media outlet, very knowledgeable and very credible source of the German market, especially when it comes to news to Bayern Munich. But this is not regarding Bayern Munich. This is regarding their arch rival, Dortmund, because it's reported that Dortmund are ready to make an offer to Barcelona and to Guille as soon as the team lands back in Spain, because Guille traveled to Asia with the first team. And what Dortmund want to offer Guille is a new project, because Dortmund have not been doing well the last, I want to say, 2 seasons. So they're looking to rebuild their squad. They're looking to build a brand new competitive project where Guille Fernandez would be an important part of that new rebuilding effort of Dortmund. So that's what Dortmund want to offer the player. We'll see whether that's convincing or not. And of course, we'll see if that offer convinces Barca. because, of course, they have to convince both. But like I said, for now, Gia will consider all his options. It's not for sure he's going to leave, but it's not for sure he's going to stay either. And so far, Dortmund are the ones looking to kind of make him the most attractive offer. We'll see whether that convinces him or not. All right, let's get back to the news, not the news, the comment section. And then we are going to talk about Hector Fort. Let's see. Sulficar says, hi, Mo. Are you concerned about Flick's eye for talent? Last season, he tried Dominguez, Cuenca, and retained Martin instead of Valle, contrary to Xavi, who gave us Lamine, Cubarsí, and Fermin. No, I'm not worried about his talent. Eye for talent. I mean, look, Lamine and Cubarsí is not really a great discovery by Xavi or by any, right? Lamine and Cubarsí are two kids that all the coaches in La Masia have been praising them for a very long time. And anybody who was paying attention to the academy, they knew Lamine because all his coaches were saying that they hadn't seen a talent like him since Messi. Okay. And these are his coach, the coach is saying that. This is not the press. You know, the press like to overhype. Oh, the Turkish Messi. That's what they told us about Arda Güler. Yeah. Such a Messi that he spends all the time on the bench. You know, the media likes to hype things. Fans obviously forget about it. If a player has one good 5 minutes, all of a sudden he's Messi. And if a player who's been good for 10 years has one bad match, all of a sudden he's trash and the worst player ever. So, but these were the actual coaches saying Lamine they haven't seen talent like him since Messi. So to say that, oh, Xavi promoted Lamine like it was some kind of great discovery, it wasn't. Any idiot with half a brain would have promoted Lamine. I mean, that was clear. That was obvious. The club had a plan for him to make it to the first team. Same with Cubarsí. I would give him credit for Fermin, because Fermin, obviously, he had to leave to Linares, come back. Xavi gave him an opportunity, and it worked. But to say that, oh, and this could have happened under Flick, by the way. If Flick would have promoted Lamine and Cubarsí, I wouldn't have been like, oh, Flick, that great discoverer of talent. Everybody knew about Cubarsí and Lamine. Same way as, you know, Rijkaard promoting Messi. It's not like, oh, Rijkaard, such a discoverer. He discovers talents. Oh, my God. Everybody knew Messi was coming up to the academy and he was going to make some damage. So, no, I'm not worried about, you know, Flick eye for talent. If anything, I would commend him the fact that he gave a chance to Gerard Martin, because everybody who saw Gerard Martin were like, what the fuck is this guy seeing him? But yet he became the most improved player on the squad. That is hard to see. Anybody could see a young up-and-coming talent like Lamine, like Cubarsí, like Dro. Anybody can see that. But to see someone like Gerard Martin, you're like, okay, who's this bum? And then all of a sudden he surprises you like, oh, shit. Wait, how'd you know? You know? Casado was about to leave because Xavi wouldn't give him a chance. Flick gave him a chance, and see what happened. So it's more difficult to detect those kind of talents than someone like Lamine or Cubarsí. I mean, anybody, even a blind guy could have seen. Crow says, with Martin now playing center back and doing pretty well, in my opinion, you think that increases Torrent's chances of getting into the first team as backup, or will Flick interchange like he did with Eric? So with Jofre Torrent, the club really believed that he has a lot of potential, and they want to take it slow with him, which is very important, right? We've seen that when you rush a player into the first team, they're going to end up ruining their career. And the same with Dro. Okay, the club have a lot of expectations of Dro and Torrents, maybe Dro more than Torrents. Actually, Dro more than Torrents. But nonetheless, there's a lot of expectation from these two guys. They believe they're very talented, lots of potential. But the club want to take their time with them. They don't want to rush them. There's no need to rush them, right? I mean, we can have Balde and Gerard Martin for the next season. It's not like, oh, shit, like we don't have anybody. Like, fuck it, just promote that guy. There's no need, right? So the club want to take their time. And I think it's the right decision. Anyways, let's talk about another academy player, since we are on the topic of academy players. But let's talk about Hector Fort, because Barcelona are considering a different alternative to what they had decided, I want to say last week, maybe the week before. But as I told you before, Barcelona were open to sell Hector Fort because Hansi Flick Doesn't really count on him. You know, it's Kunde. He's the starter. Eric Garcia has now become the alternative to Kunde or the substitute for Kunde, with Hector Fort dropping all the way down to third. And as we saw last season, he barely got any minutes. In fact, this preseason, he barely got any minutes. So since Barcelona need to offload players to generate money and be able to register, they were open to the sale of Hector Fort, especially since there was a lot of interest in him. Now, what's the change of plan? Barcelona could consider a loan. Now, we know Deco hasn't been a big fan of loans lately. He prefers to sell players while retaining a percentage of their rights, plus a buyback clause in case you want to bring him back in the future and then, become a superstar. But in the case of Hector Fort, Barcelona could be open to a loan. Why? Because Hector Fort has made it very clear that, he doesn't want to leave. But at the same time, Hector Fort needs to be playing. Now, Barcelona believe that Hector Fort has potential, but of course, you cannot develop that potential unless you're getting minutes. And if Hector Fort is not going to get minutes here at Barcelona, because we know he's not going to get minutes here at Barcelona because Kunde and Eric Garcia are ahead of him, then Barcelona could be open to loaning him. That way he can get minutes, he can develop, and if he does end up impressing, Barcelona can bring him back. Plus, it's the alternative that Barcelona think the player would be more open to, because so far Hector Fort said, no, I want Barca. So he's not willing to be transferred. Maybe he would be open to a loan. Now, of course, we'll see what the player says. He said no to being sold. We'll see if he says yes to being loaned or if he insists on staying. But for now, Barcelona could consider loaning Hector Fort instead of permanently transferring him. Now, I want to hear you guys' thoughts. What do you think about this? I honestly have not been too impressed about Hector Fort. I think, offensively speaking, he does show promise. Of course, he still has a lot of work to do. He looks a little bit too chaotic on the field. But he does look very promising, offensively speaking. Defensively, I think he's a mess. He has a very hard time tracking back. He has a very hard time marking his target. But offensively speaking, he looks like a promising, offensive fullback. But defensively, he still needs a lot of work. So maybe a loan would be the solution to this. Maybe he just needs more minutes on the field to improve both. But of course, I want to hear you guys' thoughts and opinions. All right, let's do the comment section. That is the last bit of news. Chuchu says Casado isn't on the same level as FDJ. Never. I wouldn't say never. I think right now I can choose either. But anyways. Al-Haji says, hi, Mo. My name is Al-Haji Bieber. Ooh, related to Justin Bieber. Says, say from Sierra Leone, any updates for the 1-to-1 rule? No updates. No updates. They're just waiting on the, the report from the auditor in regards to the VIP seats that supposedly is going to get us under the 1-to-1 rule. But again, we've been hearing this for 2 years. Oh, Nike deal is going to get us under the 1-to-1 rule. Then Nike deal came and went and nothing happened. Then Laporta was like, oh, no, it's because we don't want to be under the 1-to-1 rule. Oh, yeah, okay. I don't want to have money to eat, because it's more fun to be hungry. You stay skinny, I guess. And then now supposedly with the seats, I don't know. At this point, for me, I'll believe it when I see it. That's it. And Sean says, good night, guys. I saw on your last podcast, you said Gerard Martin was trusted by Flick and will be back up Balde, but in the last few games, Flick played him as a central defender. I think he might back up Inigo. I mean, he could do both, right? Kind of like Eddie Garcia, where sometimes he would jump in as a right back, sometimes as a center back. We saw him as a defensive midfielder. It's good to have these versatile players because then, they can back up other players because we don't have left-footed center backs besides Inigo. So if Gerard Martin can cover that position too, why not, right? It's not mutually exclusive. It's not like you either back up this guy or you either back up that guy. You could back up both. Let's see. Kind of like, Rashford. He'll be able to back up Rafinha. He'll be able to cover Lewandowski. Colin says, greetings from Trinidad. Mo, I must say we have a young and vibrant squad, but our number 9 spot. Well, that's why we have Rashford and Ferran, right? They can always step in for Lewy. And the Matrix says, what I like about the B team is that they look no different from the starters so far in the preseason. 100% agree. That's what I like about this preseason. It's like, all right, we start with our starting squad, and then you take them out, you bring in completely new 11, and it's like I don't see a difference. It's we really have two squads here that both are able to compete. And obviously our starters, we do have Lamine and Kovarsi. Like individually speaking, yes, obviously the players who are starting are individually speaking better than the players who are the bench players. But as a team, you take out the starters, you put in the entire B squad, the substitute squad, and you see them perform the same way, implementing the same exact ideas that Flick has, the same strategy, the same everything. That the identity remains, and that's very important. That's very, very important. As I always said, having an identity is very important because no matter what happens, it doesn't change what's going on the field, right? Before, we didn't have an identity. So if one of our starters got injured or got subbed out or got tired or got suspended, the whole team would crumble because the team was dependent on individual talent. And when that individual talent is gone, all of a sudden the whole thing falls apart. But when you have an identity, it doesn't matter who's on the field, right? It's like you take out one player, you put another one in his place, the system continues to work, right? It's like a car, like a machine, right? A car, if you're tired, if you switch out your tire, the car is still going to work. It's not going to crumble. So that's very important. And I like that. Carlos says, how do the players end up in La Masia when they are kids? Scouting, parents paying for them to be in. There's two ways you're going to be scouted. Like, for example, Lamine was scouted at his local team in Rocafonda. Or you could try out. You can try out as a kid. And, if you impress in your tryouts, you're welcome. And if not, obviously you get sent home. So both ways. Let's see. Vincent says, Mo, when I give an opportunity with available funds, which Barca team would like to watch? Wait, like out of all the teams, like the first team, women team, blah, blah, blah. Like if you cannot afford to watch the first team, I would watch the women's team. They're pretty good, man. I saw them against, I think it was Villarreal, and the score was like 7-0 or 7-2. Something ridiculous. They're really good. Plus, it's always a pleasure to see, Aitana or to see Alexia. So, yeah, I think that's your question. But, yeah, if you cannot afford to watch the first team, definitely watch the women's team. Mike says, it's been so long since Barca won the Champions League. God, please, I hope the season is ours. Yes. By the way, when Madridistas are like, oh, you guys have gone 10 years. They went like, I think it was 32 or 34 years one time without winning the Champions League. So, don't let them fool you that somehow Barca's the only team that has gone a long time without winning it. Earl says, Yamal's training already showing today with the number of times he cut to the end of the line. Yeah, 100%. 100%. And that's scary. That's scary for other teams. And SA says, Dro and Union in Barca B. Wow, mark my words. Zizi Bedoya and Damien van der Vaart. Almost a team might show up at Barca B, and that would be a dream. Well, my dream right now for Barca B or Barca Athletic is so they get promoted again to third division because, as we've seen, there's a lot of players who are like, F this. Why am I going to play in fourth division? If I can't make it to the first team, I'd rather go somewhere else. Gianbergili, for example, that's one. But anyways, that is all the news for this podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will be doing a video later tonight recapping the preseason, my thoughts, my opinions about what I've seen so far. So don't forget to watch it or stay tuned to the channel. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. And as always, Visca Barça.